The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Happy December. Happy holiday time.
Here we go. This is your month of craziness in a great celebrative way. Is that a word? Celebrative? No. Celebration way.
Celebratory
way. Dear goodness. Here we go. I just took a sip of coffee. All right, so let's talk about today's topic, which is best in class. This is fun because I think it's appropriate to think about going into 2017. And of course, the first one starts off with the definition or definitions, any way you want to look at it. And the highest current performance level in an industry used as a standard or a benchmark to be equaled or exceeded. That's what the best in class definition is. And when you think about it, excuse me, you think about current performance level, the highest current performance level in the industry, so you're setting a standard, and a benchmark to be equaled or exceeded. And the first thing I thought about when it became industry related is I think about Robert Cromings and creating the wash house and experience and the color bar experience. And when he did it, wash houses were still just a part of the environment of the salon. They weren't enclosed and creating a different environment. And color bars were still behind the secret curtain or the secret door. And now look at the amount of people that have changed their businesses because he created a benchmark and a standard for the industry that people wanted to either equal or exceed even that standard. And we've got people that have taken wash houses to a different level, having wash house menus like he started, but they've created their own and trained their customer to be a customer in their business differently than how the customer used to be serviced. And it raised the level. They became best in class in the eyes of the industry, but in the eyes of their customer as well. And that's what's really exciting about best in class. Steve, what do you want to say to open?
Well, I just think it's a really good time as we prepare for 2017. And I know you're all laughing, saying, "How are we preparing for 2017? We're just trying to get through the holidays." But I know maybe in your drive times or your times just as with your owner's hat on or management hat on, you're thinking about 2017. And where are we as far as best in class now? If not us, who is best in class? First of all, in your town, then in your state or your surrounding area, and then nationally, and of course internationally. And there's all different areas of our wonderful profession to be best in class at. So identify the things where you're best in class currently and the things where you desire to be best in class. And then look at those benchmarks and look at what are the action steps that need to be taken. So we're going to go through that today, but I think it's a great topic, and I think it's something certainly to think of and create some motivation for 2017.
Well, and how do we keep this in front of mind every day? And how do we get it right, to the desire to get it right and to improve every day? I mean, I think that you have to always be focused on where we're going, not what we've done. I mean, Steve, I think this is a great time to talk about who we are versus what we can become.
Yeah. Many times when we're talking to a group of stylists or a group of salon owners or managers, I think all three would have a different rating on this. We'll ask the question, how much of your time away from the business, when you're not talking to your colleagues, when you're not talking to fellow salon owners, how much of the time are we talking about who we are currently? We're the best salon in our town. We are the salon that spends the most on education. We're the salon that sets the trends. We're the salon that has the blow-dry bar. We're the salon that has this, has that, versus what you're aspiring to become. The interesting part about that is that the more we spend our time talking about who we are versus what we can become, we got to who we are, by thinking and dreaming and planning and executing and having in the front of our mind every single day, what can we become? That's where our dialogue needs to be, and that's also what inspires people. That's what inspires your team. That's what brings people forward and gets them to want to perform at the very highest level. It's also contagious. It's something that certainly passes from one staff member.
A stack of envelopes.
Brian, we're hearing you.
Thank you.
Brian, we're hearing you. So you need to be on mute. Thanks. So the point that I was making is that not only is it contagious to your team, but it's also contagious to your guest. And that's really, when you're really making things happen, when you're really focusing on what you can become, whether you're an individual stylist or whether you are a salon of 20 people or more, talking about what you can become is what lets the guest in to play. It's what gets them excited as well. So
good. So how do we keep this at the front of the mind? And I think about how this is going to have to be daily conversation, desire to get it right and to improve. Many times we've got busy, successful salons or busy scheduled days, but the thought of how can we improve doesn't even enter our mind. I mean, the question we have to ask ourselves as leaders every day is, will who we are now lead you to who you want to be in the future? I mean, if you're busy, and I think this question, I don't want you to get confused and say, oh my God, Terry asked this question and I have to stop doing hair behind the chair. That's not what I'm saying at all on this. But who you are now, is there time to work on improving it? I mean, I think we've even done a class type working in it or on it. And in order to improve, you've got to be able to think about and give time to the business to think about where there's areas of improvement. There's room for them. How do we plan for them? How do we strategize and create those changes for improvement? And are they hard sometimes? Gosh, I think about improvement sometimes as tackling a basement project. You go down the stairs and you go, oh my God, it's just so much easier just to close the door, turn the lights off, versus saying we're going to go down there and we're going to tackle this basement to create the improvement in our home. It's the same thing in business. Sometimes we know what has to be tackled, but we turn the light off and we close the door. So we have to be committed to leaning in, which if you haven't read that book, please read it. Lean in and be all in. And when many companies are taking a step away from service, take a step closer to the service. And what I mean by that is some companies are thinking technology. They want to put everything into social media, and they're not focusing as much on what happens right in front of the guest when they're in our business. You know, yesterday I was at our school in Chicago, and I just spent some time just watching. And gosh, I love the focus. I saw focus, but I didn't see fun, and I didn't see happy. And that can get in the way. Focus sometimes, intensity, sometimes can get in the way of two basics that have to be in place. And when I brought one of the leaders over, and I said, just what do you not see? She goes, oh my gosh, Terry, until you said that, I see very serious faces on the floor, but not fun and not happy. And you have to take time to watch the business to see what the customer is seeing. And we're going to talk more about that because I think we've got some good examples to share with you. So when you think about companies that do this right, that are all in and lean in and realize that best in class takes a lot of work and effort, they have research and development departments. And some people have positions that are just the director of minor improvements. I mean, that's a position that some companies have employed in, and I get it. I mean, they're looking for minor improvements every day. But what do you want the customer to say after you have and became best in class is they thought of everything. They thought of everything. And hospitality is certainly the hospitality industry has to think of everything to be best in class. Hotels, restaurants, travel. So when you're done, they go, oh my gosh, we wanted for nothing, and they thought of everything that we could have even anticipated or thought of ourselves. And they all have something very much in common. They want you to return. They want it to be even better for you the next visit, and they want you to tell someone else. And those three things are exactly the same things that you want in your salons. You want your guests to return, and you want them to say, this is even better than the last time I was here, and you want them to tell somebody else. So we have so much in common with hospitalities, hotels, restaurants, travel, and other high levels of hospitality businesses. Are we studying them enough to learn from them? Because they've done a lot of the research and development that we can capitalize on. So when you think about these companies, and let's just use the Ritz, and am I spelling craft restaurant right, Steve? I don't know if I am or not. But the Ritz-Carlton, which we've referred to before, their credo is to meet or exceed the expectations of their guest, whether spoken or unspoken. The minibar is stocked with things that Steve and I have enjoyed in the past, so they personalize it. The pillows are the ones that we choose of their assortment. The ones on the bed are the ones that we've complimented and said we enjoyed. The newspaper of choice, whether it be USA Today or the Wall Street Journal, will be the ones that they have delivered to our room because they've seen in the past that we've read those and didn't read the others, and they put that in notes. They pay attention to the little things. They don't have to be reminded of that customer. Even if I haven't been there for a year with Steve, we don't have to remind them. It's in our notes so they can have it prepared for us. When you look at Craft Restaurant in LA, I'll never forget, we were done, we had settled the check, and they walked over with a tray with fresh granola for all of us in an individualized bag, and their dialogue is, thank you for enjoying your last meal today with us. We'd like to offer you fresh granola to be your first meal on us tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I'm still blown away by that and still use that as an example. Who came up with that? The person that said, hey, this could be a minor improvement and this is going to make an impact so people talk about us. And then, of course, the last thing is they want you to be comfortable in their business. Please make yourself comfortable here. And sometimes businesses are okay with you being uncomfortable, but the ones that are going to retain their customers are the ones that realize the guest feeling comfortable is a guest that's going to want to return. Steve?
No doubt. I think that on this slide, one of the things that I'm really thinking about is how to take this from thought into practice. And one of the things that Ritz-Carlton does is they incent their people, their housekeeping staff, and their people that refresh the mini bars to record, to gather bits of data that they can put into the notes so that the Ritz as a company can serve the guest better in the future. So things like the way they know the pillows is the fact what pillows that were in the room were used. The way they know the newspaper, what was read. The way that they know what was used in the minibar and what's preferred is by what was used out of that. And so their whole, their credo is to meet or exceed the needs of the guest, whether spoken or unspoken. There's a lot of unspoken needs. There's a lot of unspoken requests that a guest has in our business, but are we aware of it? Again, I'll use this as an example at PSC. People, when they come into our classes, in our theater or in our workshop classroom, they want to be able to access the internet. And in the past, what we've done is we've put up either on a screen or on a whiteboard or a tablet, we've put up this is our Wi-Fi password. But when I check into a hotel, they give us a little card that says, here is your Wi-Fi password at check-in. Well, we go through the check-in process, and that's the time when someone has to actually logged onto the wireless is those moments after they check in before the program starts. And it's just a little thing, noticing what perhaps our guest wants, but we were taking that for granted. We weren't, we thought we were doing what we needed to do just by posting it in the room somewhere. But to go the extra mile is a desire. So that's a way of just taking what you want to do as a business and then transferring that into practice by all of the people. And craft restaurant, I mean, I wish everyone could experience it, because the granola comes after dessert. It comes after they give you a fresh chocolate tray complimentary. And you think, oh my God, this food is just going to keep coming. These desserts, these treats are going to keep coming. And then they present you with the granola. And one of the little bits of dialogue is enjoy this in the morning as your first meal and reminisce about your evening and who you spent it with. And again, it's just so special when people do go the extra mile. And it's game changing. That's the thing. You'll change the game for your guests and in your communities.
Well, and I think when we look at dialogue to compliment, there's many times that businesses will do it, but not make enough noise about it, not have the right dialogue. They'll just say, that's on us, or, okay, thank you, versus what dialogue is going to even complement what you're doing to even make bigger impact. And that's big. It's really big. So best in class. So we're going to be looking at everything in red is of course going to be leaning on best in class, service intelligence. And while I was writing this for us today, thinking about how do you become best in class in service, and we're going to break it down using the 4 cornerstones, because we've used that forever at PSC as an indicator of what's working, what needs to be improved upon. But this is a great thing to do for 2017. What is your service intelligence right now? I mean, where is the team's level in these areas? And there's many more that can be written, because all of you deliver service in different, unique ways. But when you look at it, white glove service is a standard that is very, very high, meaning we want to show you how committed we are by draping our hands, because everything usually in service is done with hands or done with dialogue and body language and facial expression. White glove service means we're so convinced that our hands are going to do a great job. We're going to even put them in white gloves to even accent our ability to service in a beautiful way. Also, it means very, very sanitary. So what is our white glove service going to look like in your salons in 2017? What areas do we need to improve on? And it could be easily how we drape a cape. It could also be how we ask a guest to sit down in our chair with our hand gesture, or almost acting like we pulled the chair out for them. There's beautiful ways we can do it that are subtle, that'll make huge impact. And of course, we're talking about guest relations, and that was huge because of what I witnessed at the school yesterday. Do you love what you do? Tell your face that you're enjoying this. Be happy. Give energy. Use eye contact. We still have people that want to communicate with someone through a mirror. During the consultation should be done face-to-face, heart-to-heart, not through the mirror unless you're using mirror as a visual guide. But to try to do that, it creates too much distance between. How many of us would have a conversation with someone that we wanted to make high impact on 3 feet away? No, we would lean in or we would step into them. As a result, sometimes that mirror creates a 3-foot barrier of eye contact, and I just don't think that's good enough. And I don't think as a guest that's good enough either. And then, of course, we're going to use that beautiful dialogue. I saw things yesterday where we talked about a lot. We gave professional recommendation, and how we said okay versus how does that sound to you? What are you thinking about when we're discussing that? Are we talking to our own understanding? Make sure we're able to speak with ease to that guest so they understand versus talking to our own understanding. And of course, saying thank you to them after they'd agreed, allowed to trust us for this service. And then please make yourself comfortable here. All of that dialogue complements the consultation. Now, we're so in the zone to create a technical consultation that we forget to create a service consultation. And I think there's a difference between the two. One is technical, yes, what we're going to do, but one is, how are we going to do it? Now, I don't know if I've used this the last time or in classes I've taught, but my brother went through a really hard time this year battling cancer, and we just found out a couple days ago that he's cancer-free. So prayers have been answered, and medicine certainly played a great role in his recovery. But I can tell you that I witnessed so many different professionals along this journey with him, whether it was in the emergency room, whether it was in the hospital. And one of the times specifically I can remember is he was at the hospital probably, I think we had 9 trips in 14 days. And we were in an emergency room where the nurse was very, very qualified, but she was definitely technically driven. Asking questions, what brought you here? She was entering things into the screen. She wasn't talking to him. Her answers were Technically, she was entering everything into the screen, but her service, bedside manner, lacked a lot. And you had another nurse that put the same things into the screen, but when the conversation needed her to, she stepped away, touched Mark's arm, said, we're going to get you comfortable as soon as we can. Hang in there with me for a few more minutes. I know you're going through hell and back. Trust us for a little bit longer to get this information, and then we'll help you. So you can see both of them technically driven, but one knew when to step in to the service and the emotional connection needed to take care of the patient. And that's what I saw, or what I didn't see yesterday is we're teaching technical in our school, but we've also have to make sure we're focusing on the service side. Steve, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I just think that any time we're in this profession, we realize that there have been wildly successful hairdressers that aren't technically the greatest. I really don't think, as most of you know, that I don't believe that the guest can tell the difference between a good haircut and a great haircut. You can, as the professional, but the thing that makes or breaks a hairdresser is their ability to lean in, is their ability to show interest and to be excited and to be socially aware of that guest. We are, as Terry says all the time, we're on stage. We're entertainers. This is entertainment as much as anything. And if we've got people that are just making the donuts, so to speak, or they're bored, or they're boring, they're not going to be able to build as fast, and they're using up the social value, the social value of your brand in your community, because people want to be around people that make them feel important and make them feel special. And if we're not making an effort, then we're losing, even if we're technically brilliant.
So in the consultation, I think that one of the things I would look at if I were you, as far as the listeners, is think about that consultation being divided into technical consultation and service consultation, or social consultation. There's 2 components to it. And you make a list of your staff and say, who's stronger, which one, what do we need to work on? And that's a great staff meeting as well. And director of minor improvements, you could do a lot of good right there. And when we look at the personalities that are needed for service intelligence, you have to be alive, and you have to have presence, and you have to have the social skills. Their service charm school is something we need to teach. And I can tell you, when you've got young people coming in, you have to teach them service school. You have to have that part of it. I know you have Tuesdays that they're learning a haircut, and I know Tuesdays they're doing blowouts, but make sure also we're going to be talking about the service skills and going to service school with us and helping them understand that that's a module for us as well. Image, dress code to complement service. Yesterday I had to talk to a young lady, and her belly was showing, and it shouldn't be. And I had to say to her, that doesn't complement who we are. That's not who we are. And do you understand how that could come across to the guest that's sitting in the chair? So you have to address it when you see it, because if you don't, you're given permission for that standard to come into your business. As far as chairside manner, being able to touch the guest with ease to create comfort and connection and confidence with them, that's really nice. Touching a shoulder or touching an arm to let them know you're there. And then having the awareness to pay attention to that guest when they're looking uncomfortable or not at ease in any way, and saying, how can I make you more comfortable, or is there something you want to tell me? Because we can see it before we usually say it. As anybody, whether a leader or a service provider can see something on a guest before a guest usually says it. We can see it in an employee before they say it. And having that awareness is really creating service intelligence. Okay. How are we going to find the right talent that's going to do this? I mean, yesterday there was a young man that just started with us 4 weeks ago at the school, and he stood out for me. You know, after I was done and I was talking to the director and one of the leaders, and I said, who is this young man? He stood out to me today, and they both had a big smile on their face, meaning we're really excited about him. We're glad he stood out to you and glad you noticed. That's big. You've got to find the right talent. Even when you're desperate, wait for the right talent. Don't push a square peg into a round hole. You can't get good or better, best practices if you don't have the right people. You might get good, but you're not going to get better and best. And we're looking for better and best as we're making minor improvements. Also, we have to figure out how to scout to complement what's in place now. And when you look at finding people that are going to complement your vision, it's hard. It's difficult because sometimes you can't articulate what that is. But take yourself out to lunch, grab a sheet of paper. What are we looking to complement we have in place right now? You know, I think about the Nick Saban. Is that his name, Steve?
Yes, coach of Alabama.
From Alabama. And every time they win the championship, which they've done on multiple occasions, he gives them a week to celebrate. And then he says, okay, after we celebrate, now we have to go find the people that are going to complement the people that we're losing to keep this momentum going. And he's got to replace his seniors. But if he didn't have to replace his seniors and he was allowed to bring 20 more people on, he would already have them in his back pocket because he'd already done his job to what they're looking for. They've narrowed down the best kind of athlete that fits into their vision. What's the best kind of employee or hairdresser or beauty professional that will complement your vision as well? So training and development, I mean, how do you teach service intelligence or social intelligence? It's harder than you think. And if you have Tuesdays coming in, I'd probably put an hour maybe on the front or the back side of every Tuesday. Okay, we're closing with this today. We're talking about service intelligence all day today. Or we're going to end every one of our Tuesdays with service intelligence, dialogue, and everything else. You have to have that ongoing. I don't think it's a one-day thing and then they have it, because it has to be practiced until you get it. Even watching the people downstairs go through service training here, you know, I'll come in and we have a new girl in training right now by the name of Kate, and I'll say, you know, where are we at? I mean, and so I'll say she's 3/4 of the way, so I'll call her, you know, 0.75, and then I'm looking for 0.8, 0.85, and 9. And when she gets fully out, that means she's on the phone alone. But we're not done training just because she's on her own. We have to continually teach this till she now has an opinion and can also look for ways of improvement. It's harder than you think, and it takes more time than you think. And I think it's harder sometimes than teaching a haircut. Service intelligence, social intelligence, the way to be, the way to carry yourself, the way to have presence, the way to lean in, the way not to have excuses. All of that is in how you serve and position yourself with the guests in your business. And I think it can be taken personally sometimes because we have to change the way they carry themselves, sometimes change their walk, change their dress, change the way they speak. And that's more, that's more difficult to do than to say your body position needs to change to create this kind of haircut. Technical is easier. It's more cut and dry. This is more intangible that creates a tangible result. So best-in-class product intelligence. So we covered service, and now we're going to cover the product. And this is where most of you are going to be more comfortable in the conversation, and you're also going to be more comfortable as a trainer. But we're looking for what is our quality control, and how are we checking for product intelligence? Are we checking work? I mean, I know in the schools that the guest doesn't leave till that learning leader checks that work before they go. But once they're out on their own for a certain amount of time, we don't check their work any longer. And should there be, versus you're on your own and we don't check your work anymore, versus we're going to check, or we're going to period spot check. I can remember going through the airport just recently again, and it seems like of late I've been chosen for random selection, random screening, I think they call it. And I don't care. I mean, I have nothing to hide, and safety is more important than anything. How about random quality control checks in your business, random screening? And it allows you as a trainer or an owner to check in with that guest. They can see your commitment to quality. I think it's powerful. Steve, talk about Mary Ann's commitment to quality, because I love that, her quality control commitment.
Well, our friend Mary Ann McCormick at Visible Changes in Houston, my favorite story about that was in the early days when they opened their first salon. She was traveling back and forth on weekends between New York, where she still had her clientele, and Houston, where they were going to move and open the salon. And she had hired staff, and they were training, and so now after the training, they opened their doors and people came in, and John was at the front desk, at the service desk, and people would come up to pay after their service, and he'd say, "Nope, it's complimentary." And the guest would look at John and they'd say, "This is the best haircut I've ever had. I want to pay for it." And he would look back and say, "You know what? You think it's the best haircut that you've ever had. I think it's the best haircut you've ever had. But my wife, she doesn't think it's the best haircut you've ever had." We're still in the process of building our team to the level that she wants to see it technically. And until that, we're not going to charge a fee for these services. And they went something like a month of not charging for those services with the entire team until Mary Ann said, "Okay, we're good. We're ready. Let's open."
So we want to be known for our product intelligence. I mean, what Mary Ann said is we're not going to negotiate off of our quality control and take being the expert of what we do and how we do it very seriously. If you have a conversation with Mary Ann about hair today or service today, I mean, she'll sit straight up, because she's going to go into her expert dialogue. She's going to go into her expert commitment, and you'll see, I mean, it'll ooze from her how seriously she does it, and why she does it, and how she does it. I mean, there's no if, and, and but when she's done talking, that you know how seriously she's committed to what she does. And that's when you're known for it. You're known for quality control. You're known for your product. You're known for the quality of work that you're going to put out. And then, of course, once again, our dialogue must complement what we do and proof of the work. So how did you achieve this? We go right into that conversation, not, well, no, it's obvious. You have a position and you can defend your decision making. You want to have expert status. You want house specialists, like some of your top colorists or groomers, your salon specialists, house specialties. What are your salon specialties? And what are the signature product services? Because you are so best in class and you have product intelligence that it is proof to the guest that you've got this category covered and that you own it. The next one is best in class atmosphere intelligence. Oh, I could go on this, but for some reason, we don't have people that want to become atmosphere fanatics. I walk into businesses and they don't have the music on, or the place doesn't smell great, or the temperature is wrong, and the energy is flat, and the standards of excellence aren't protected. You know, when you walk in, someone has to be checking for this. And you've got to listen for the music, smell for the scent, feel for the temperature, look for the quality control and how we look and is everything in its place. Do we have the energy? That's what I was looking for yesterday when I was at the school. The music wasn't loud enough for me. I thought it lacked where it should help and complement the energy. It lacked energy. I didn't smell a great scent in the school. The temperature wasn't offensive, so it was probably right. And I was looking for that energy and that buzz, and fun and laughter create some of that. And I wasn't seeing enough of that. So sometimes, just like when I pulled that learning leader aside, I said, let's look for these things and listen and smell and let our senses take over. And she said, I've never thought of it that way. So you've got to teach atmosphere intelligence too, and have someone say, okay, we're ready. I mean, how many times are we entertaining and the last thing we do is light the candles before the guests walk in the door, or we put the music on? It's because we're trying to impress. We're wanting to make sure everything is right. Who's looking for that? And it can't just be when we're grand opening or when we've got a VIP in the house. It's got to be something that we are committed to creating on a daily basis. And then, of course, we have best-in-class sanitation intelligence. Yesterday, I walked into the ladies' room, and I said, I have to use the powder room. And they said, we haven't been in there yet. And I thought, well, are you saying that for me, or should you have said that to every guest? So when I walked in, there was garbage all on the floor, and I know other people were in there on staff or future professionals, so we hadn't taught them sanitation intelligence. I picked them all up. I changed the bag in the garbage. I wiped the counter off, and I came out and said to both of them, place is good. You can go on to something else. When you have white glove service meets white glove sanitation, everyone's committed to that. I looked in every stall to make sure it was right. I did say to them, I don't know where the towels are. We do need more hand paper towels in there. But that should be something we teach every team member to do, that it's just part of the ritual. And use the powder room, you service the powder room. And it's sanitation intelligence. There's people that don't have it. Steve, you don't have it. You don't look for that. I mean, your mind, that's not the first place you're going to go. Just like dress code's not a first place you go. When you're looking at someone, you look in their eyes, you look in their heart, and that's not bad. But if we're going to protect, we've got to expand. We've got to expand that to make sure when someone from the Ritz-Carlton's walking down, they're not just walking to the lobby; they're inspecting as they're walking, and we have to inspect while we're walking, and we have to inspect while we're using. It's something we work on here all the time. I especially teach that to a new employee, or I can see when I'm in the powder room, they're servicing the powder room too. It's just what we do. You have to check and inspect all day long. Just because I serviced it at 10 doesn't mean when I go in to use the powder room at 1 that I'm not going to have to do the same thing. And we tweak and we make changes. For example, I might say, why are we always out of towels here? Because they might be stored 40 feet away. Maybe we need to create a storage system so the towels are easily accessible. We always have to make sure that we have our best face on. And our face on is how we look. And sanitation is something that you tweak a mat, you look at the front door, you wipe something off. I got frustrated yesterday. We had hired a painter at the school, and they painted, but there was a bench that I wanted to use yesterday. And when we moved the bench, it had paint all over it. So what the painter had done is not move the bench out to do his job. That's just laziness. That makes us all look sloppy. How often in our salons are we not moving the bench? And you have to say, move the bench, pull that out. That's not good enough. We have to make sure we're doing that. Another thing that happened from sanitation standpoint, we were hosting an event Monday night, and I said we need the 3 chairs, the stools for the models to be put on stage. They put them on, and the bases of them were absolutely dusty and filthy. So they got the chair, but they didn't inspect the chair before they put it on stage. They brought out 3 carts for product to go on. Yes, they got the cart, but they didn't inspect the cart. So we have to teach people to, yes, get the task done, but inspect it to make sure it's right. And sanitation intelligence is doing the right thing for the right reason. I mean, discipline in all of this is going to be uncomfortable. I can tell you that Tyler will never put a chair on stage again the same way. He'll inspect it now because of what he had to learn the hard way, right? Wow, why didn't I see that first? Discipline's uncomfortable short term, but compromise is uncomfortable forever. And we compromise on service. We compromise on consultations. We compromise on the close of the service, talking about rescheduling, asking for referrals, talking about our take-home professional recommendation. We compromise, and that's uncomfortable forever, and the results are uncomfortable forever. You know, when we think about having honest conversations with ourselves, is how could we compromise, where could we compromise, if we're not careful, and where have we compromised in the past? And I just started a list, and then we can add to it and talk about it, Steve, in the areas that you want to add to this, but let's just go through some of them. If we're not careful, we can compromise on punctuation. We can compromise on training and development and thinking we want to get them out faster versus they're not ready yet. You know, there's many times, I think I've told this story before, but a couple times, I was an advocate in the restaurant industry that they're not trained until they're trained, because they're going to lose confidence if we put them out there too early. Even if they think they're ready and they're not, they're going to lose confidence the first time their service gets used against them. We had a table of, I think it was 25 people show up on at 4 o'clock on a Saturday, and I was training 3 people. But I was the only server in. The next one wasn't due until 4:15, and the next one until 4:30. And of course, back then there weren't cell phones saying, "Can you get here right now?" And my boss came out and he said, "Hey, we've got these 20 people. It wasn't a reservation. They're going to have to do it. I mean, we can't let these people be disappointed." And I said, "No, I'm not letting them. They're not ready to talk to a customer. They're going to look sloppy. We're going to look sloppy." And he said, "What's your suggestion?" And I said, "They can assist us with dirty plates. They can assist us with glasses. They can assist us with delivering a plate. But we're going to have to do all the talking. Go get an apron on, and you and I can service these 20, and they can assist us. But we can't let them be the lead in any dialogue with the customer because they're not prepared." And that's what we did. We got through it. But his first reaction was, throw them into the wolves. And we have to protect new talent, because training and development is always, in most cases, jeopardized. We want to know that sometimes we compromise on new and exciting, where our staff gets bored with a new release before the entire base has seen it. They don't know how to keep their energy up. We're slipping on white glove service at times, charm school service, chairside manner. We have to offer new services. We have to use new dialogue. And we have to be using the system that's in place, whether it's to take notes. How many of hairdressers don't use your system you have in place? Because they say, well, I know my customers, it's all in my head. That's not good enough. If it's not in your system, it doesn't exist. We have to be protecting the experience of the guest at all costs. Sometimes we're not all in, not leaning in, not getting better at getting better. And that's where we compromise. We get stuck. Sometimes we commit to a deadline and we don't hit it. Sometimes we said, we're going to put this in place because it's the right thing for our company, and then we don't come through. That's a compromise if we're not careful. So when you look at being all in and best in class, that takes new and exciting ideas. It needs freshness. It's protecting the plate, loving what you do. There's so much involved in it. And when you aren't bringing new things in, you're not protecting the plate of the business. What else could we compromise if we're not careful, Steve?
Well, with the very first one, when you said punctuation, I thought about punctuality, both with our staff showing up on time.
I think that's what that was supposed to say.
Really? Okay.
I think that was supposed to say punctuality. Sorry.
That's funny.
But good. Go somewhere with it.
Anyway, you know, the thing that hits me, especially being December of 2016, is how fast a year goes. I mean, it was just January, and there was just snow on the ground, and now here we are, snow on the ground again. And I think about that.
The best example is we just took our tree down and we just put it back up. I mean, right?
That's very true.
That is very true.
But we really just took it down. But anyway, the fact is that 2017 is going to happen in a blink of an eye. And being best in class does take daily vigilance. It really does. And it takes not looking past something. It's coaching to their faces, not behind their backs. And it's all of the things that we talk about. And specifically, I think here, so much of this is intangible. It's what some people call the soft skills, and it's easy for us to coach the technical skills. Easier. I don't think it's easy, but it's easier for us to coach the technical skills. All of this other stuff, they're the soft skills. They're the things that can really, really be challenging to pay attention to. When we talk about a team having a high pay attention factor, it's pay attention and follow through. That's really the key, and it's something that always gets in my way. You know, on my drive this morning to the school, I was reviewing everything in my mind that were the most important things to get done today, and some of them have been the most important things to get done for a while, because the day takes over and we're not able to work on our most important list sometimes. And so does that mean I'm negotiating off the desire to be best in class? Yes, sometimes. And that's unfortunate. That's how it all happens. It is, you know, when Terry says on this slide, if we're not careful, we could compromise. And chances are, what we have right now in our business, the current situation, is because we have compromised. And we've got to go about things, I think, in a different way to bring about a different result. And that's really the sense I get from listening to you, Terry, on this Gino says anything that's easy to do is easy not to do. Some of this is so simple, but it's also very easy not to do it, thinking I've got plenty of time to get to that. Well, speaking from my 60 years old, I can tell you we don't have all the time in the world to be and to do and to accomplish and to inspire all the things that we want to inspire in life. And so it's daily being about it. What are those things that have been on your dream list, that have been on your priority list forever, but we haven't got them into the kind of action that we want to get them into?
And here's the thing I think about when you say that. You know, there's two parts to this. Some people say, gosh, if I just had all the time in the world, this is what my salon would look like. I mean, I think about that in my home. If I had all the time in the world and didn't work, I could be an organized specialist because I love to do that, but I don't have time to do it. But it drives me crazy. And Steve will even say to me, don't you feel like a hypocrite sometimes? You talk about all these things and you can't get it done yourself. Yeah, I do. I also know what my intentions are. I don't want to take my eye off on what is the goal for me. I mean, and he'll say to me, I think you said this weekend, oh my God, you're so funny on things you decide to do and when to do them, right? Because you said, why are you doing my closet today? I don't know. I just felt like it needed to be done. There's so many other things that could be done, but you decided to do your closet, right, that day.
Well, I haven't worn a tie in probably a decade. And on Sunday, you were organizing my ties.
Well, because I got rid of all the ones that you'll never wear, right? But that's funny. Okay, so that's a great example, and I guess that is hypocritical. But anyway, you know, when some people say, God, I hate my system, I hate it. Well, or we don't have one, I need a system. No, you have one, you just don't like it. And also, when you don't make a decision that needs to be made, that's a decision too. Not to make a decision is a decision. Oh, I just lost my screen, Brian. Did I hit something? And, are
you going to play music?
Are they seeing all this? Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. But not making a decision is a decision too. For example, I haven't made it. Let's do this. I need to make a decision on Ethel. She needs to go. All right, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it. So my decision, even though she needs to go, my decision is she gets to stay because I haven't made a decision to remove her. That's a decision too, even though it's not the right one. And I talk about blue buds all the time, and I love when I take notes in that show mentally or on paper, and I love when he says, you never have to convince yourself for the right decision. You usually have to convince yourself of a wrong decision, but you never have to convince yourself of a right decision. So moving forward and making these changes and thinking about best in class, what we need to do and what changes we need to make to be best in class, I don't think you really have to convince yourself. You just need to do it and make time for it. And all of these things should be part of your timeline for 2017. All right, let's open it up to questions or comments. Where are we at on time, Brian? Because I'm not looking at a clock. This is when I feel like you're Ed McMahon or something. You know, like sitting with Johnny Carson. You're sitting with us, Ed McMahon.
So we've got about 7 minutes left, 6 minutes left. We can open up to questions if you want.
I'm excited about, thinking about, we got a lot of background on there somewhere, but I'm excited about 2017. One of the things that I'll be meeting with our directors, the 7 that report to us the next 2 Mondays, and part of my conversation is every one of them, maybe I'm saying I shouldn't see, but every one of them is a director of minor improvements for PSC, every one of them. And we're going to keep track of what minor improvements they're bringing to the table, because it's not just me and Steve that are the directors of minor improvements. Our whole team and the people that report to us and the people that report to them, they're all the directors of minor improvements too. And, maybe we do a contest for best new idea that came in 2017 that helped us as a team. Maybe the ones that helped us as the guest, maybe the best idea that didn't cost any money. You can go on and on of ideas to make us best in class. Go ahead, Brian. Brian, did you have something?
Nope, I don't have anything. I did open it up for questions, so if anyone has anything to ask or say, any comments or questions, they can go ahead and feel free now.
Also, in 2017, I don't know if Jen and Brian have have gotten this all together, but we're hoping to make this live where you can see us talking and communicating, because sometimes it's hard just to listen to us and see the screens. We're hoping we'll be able to have a visual for you too in 2017. That's one of our goals. Also in 2017, we've decided to make this program gratis to our customers, so there'll no longer be a cost to this program. And then we're hoping that we'll be able to have all of these, since we have 24 of these now that we've done. That's 24 hours, and you could use these in any of your trainings with your people. And of course, after next year, we'll have another 12. This is great. I can tell you that we learn as much about what we need to do for our futures when we're teaching these as you do from hearing them, because every one of these I could create an action step slide for PSC on, and the school. Okay, since we don't have anything, we are going to wish you the most wonderful holiday seasons full of joy and blessings, and Merry Christmas. I mean, we don't get to say that often enough to you, and it's great that this is December slides, but enjoy the holiday with your family, friends, and your salon families, including your guests and your staff. We wish you nothing but total success in 2017, and that all your dreams come true.
Absolutely. All the very best. We love and appreciate each one of you for your time and your support of Terry and I, and certainly of PSC, and more importantly of our professional salon industry and moving it forward. I'm absolutely certain that 2017 is going to be the best year yet. So thank you, and have a wonderful holiday season.
Cheers to all of you. Bye-bye.